Hey everybody, this is Alex Merced from alexmercedcoder.com. And in this video, what I want to do is just kind of go over using programmatic ideas in jQuery. Basically using functions, random values, loops and events in jQuery. So you've seen this in some of my other jQuery videos, but we're going to play with it a little bit here. So I'm going to go to my So I'm using that same setup with my index.html. Let's connect it to jQuery, connect it to my CSS. Okay, what we're going to do is I'm just going to create a random thing. Okay, and what we're going to do is we're going to have this. We're going to get rid of this input. So basically, I just delete all this. We're going to have random thing as our title. I'm going to get rid of the CSS. And we're just going to have a button. Click me. And we're going to have a div. Okay, and inside of it, there's a UL. So first thing we're going to do is work on using a loop. So we're going to go into our app.js. I'm going to clean this out. And I'm going to create an array. And again, an array is a collection of data. So you have multiple data points. So just to kind of review arrays, let's just say this is my array. It equals the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So it has these numbers in it. Okay. If I want to access this number 3, like just this number 3 by itself, the way that would work is I would go, I want to look at my R, and with curly brackets, it would be index 0, index 1, index 2. So technically, that number 3 is in index 2, because again, the little spots in the array start with 0. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You get the point. So just to show you that, let's open this up with Live Server. Okay, Control-Shift-I. And you can see we get the number 3. Okay, so basically that array has a bunch of individual pieces of data that we can grab when we want and do fun stuff with. So what I want to do is to be able to grab a random number from that array so we can print it onto the screen. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to do const, because we're going to make a function. So how do you write a function? We are going to do const, meaning we want to do a constant variable. We're going to just call it random number or random array. So that way is a function that grabs a random thing from an array. And what we're going to do is you pass in an array. Okay, so that's just, this is our parameters. So we're going to say, hey, we have a variable that we're passing in called array. And actually the way this has got to be set up is equals array arrow. So basically we're saying we're creating a variable called random array, which is going to hold a function that takes in one variable called, we're going to name it R. And then in the curly brackets, we say what happens in the function. So what we want to do is return a random value from the array. So we're going to return a value from the array. So the question is, which index are we returning? So we're returning 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there is a function in JavaScript called math.random. Okay, and math.random returns a number between 0 and 1. So in order to create what we want, we're going to say math.random times the length of the array. And what's the length of the array? Array.length. That's just a property that's built into every array that equals the number of things in the array. And then we're going to wrap this, because here's the thing, you might end up, you want to be able to get 0, and it'll never be 0 unless you do math.floor. So essentially what we're doing is, first thing that happens is that it takes a random number multiplies that by the array's length, and then rounds that number down. And then that's going to be the number that it grabs. Okay, so this is a random number function. You'll probably make this exact same function 1,000 times over whenever you need a random number from an array. So the way this would work is I'd go random array, and then in here I pass in the array, my R. So I'm passing in I could use any array because I built the function that way, but now I can just do this several times. And each time it might get a different random number. So let's take a look in the console. Okay. Why don't we see the result there yet? Const random array. Oh, it just returns the value. I need the console log the value. So let's do this. Let me delete this. Because it's returning the value, but I'm not doing anything with the value. I want to show it on the screen, so I got to toss it inside the function console.log. Because console.log is what prints something to the console. So when I'm printing the result of a random array to the console, and I want to do that like 5 times. 1, 2, 3, 4. There we go. Because again, in parentheses is what I'm giving to the function. So here I'm defining this random array function. I'm saying, hey, this function is being given this variable. We're going to call R. So then when I actually use the function, I'm passing it in R. Console log is built in the JavaScript, so we're giving it the result of a random array to do stuff. Okay, so see here, I see random numbers. See, it's not the same number every time. Okay, it's not perfectly even distribution of probabilities, but we can get a random number. Nice. Okay, so that's step number. That was the first thing. We created our data, so we have an array of things. This could be numbers, it could be strings, so words. So if I want to, I can make this a bunch of phrases now. So we'll just do that. Hello world. Goodbye world. Hiya. What? Okay. Okay. So there's a bunch of random phrases. Cool. So now what we want to do is make it that when that button is clicked, well, first is actually just loop over that array. So we have that random number function, so we'll use that again later. But first what I want to do is just show you to do a loop. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a for loop. This is sort of the simplest way to do it right now. And the way this for loop works is I say for, and then I create a variable name. So it's whatever I want these things to represent. So I'm going to say for phrase in, or for phrase of my R. Okay, and let's see why it's complaining about that. Oh, that's supposed to be this. There we go. For phrase of my R. So that means it's going to loop over this array, and every time it loops, it takes the next phrase and puts it in the variable phrase. Okay, so just to show you that this works, I go console.log phrase. So it's going to loop over each phrase and just console log it. Save. So let's take a look here and see hello world, goodbye, hiya, what, okay. So that's how that for of loop works. So for every phrase of my R, and again, phrase could be anything I would have wanted it to be. This is an actual array. This is just a variable that I can name anything I want. Okay, so now here we can then start using our jQuery. Okay, I'm probably going to be referring to this UL a lot, so I will grab that variable up here, so that way it's available to the rest of my code, and say my let UL equal $. That's how we grab things in jQuery, and I want to grab the UL. And since there's only one UL on the page, it'll grab the one UL on the page. Cool. Okay, so that'll grab the one UL on the page. And then here I'm going to say let li. We're going to create a new li. So li equal $, a new li. So again, that creates a new li. And then we're going to set the text to the result of phrase for now. Okay. And then we're going to take that li and append it to the ul. So ul dot append li. So I stored the ul in a variable, and then as I loop, each time I loop, I create a new li with the current phrase that then gets appended to the li. So now when I go back to the browser, see, there's all the words in order. Cool. Just to show you how to loop, use jQuery in a loop. Okay, so you can loop over a bunch of stuff, get it all showing up, just using good old jQuery. Neat. Now what I'm going to do, let's add an h2 below this. There we go. This is an empty h2. I'm going to grab that h2. So let h2 equal. Actually, let's do this differently because that way I can show you something else. Let's make this an h1. So what happens if there's more than one h1 on the screen? Okay, so I want to grab this h1. The problem is there's two h1s. So if I were to do this, let h1 equal $, h1, the problem is this is going to grab both h1s. Okay, that doesn't work for me. So knowing that there's two h1s, I want to grab the second one. So essentially there's an array. But jQuery has this weird thing. For you to grab the right one in the array that you want, you have to use this function called EQ. It's just the way jQuery works. So technically, the second one would be spot number 1. Okay? So just to show you that worked, and again, actually first, let's show you what happens console log h1 when I just type in h1, because again, there's two h1s in the HTML now. You see, we got an array of two h1s. There's the first h1, then the second h1, which makes things a little bit harder to do. I only want that variable to equal the h1 that I want, so what I'll do is I use EQ, and I pass in, I want the one in spot number 1. Because again, first spot's 0, so I don't want the first one, I want the second one, which is in spot 1. Okay, so now if I go over here and I see the console log, see now there's only one, the h1 that I want. Okay, cool. So I grab that, and what I want to do is I want to make it where that button has a click event. So I'm not going to use a variable for the button because I'm only going to do this once. So I'm just going to do this. I'm going to grab the button and then do .on to set up a click event. That always creates an event. Now what type of event I'm creating is a click event. And then I'm going to pass in the event function, which is always like this. I use event like that. So you're basically passing in a function. You're defining a function right there, okay? And you have to pass in this event object. It doesn't have to be called event, you can call it E. Just know that basically what you're being passed in is the data of all the event, or all the data on the event. So every time you click this button, what I want it to do is to take the h1 and change the text of the h1. And what do I want it to change into? A random phrase. So I'm going to use random array, pass in my R, so that way every time you click on this, it's going to run this, get a random phrase from the array, and it's going to change the text of that. Okay? And let's see if it works. Okay, so now if I click this, what? Hello world, what? Okay, hello world. So every time I click this, it's resetting the text to a random phrase from the list of phrases. Okay? Because that's what we defined. Okay, so bottom line, what did we learn in this video? We learned how to make a random function. Okay, so again, you're using math.random, which makes a number between 0 and 1. We multiply it by the number that we kind of want to make a range of, and then we round down. But in this case, to make it a random item from any array, we're going to use that specific array's length. Okay, an array is a collection of items. Okay, we can loop over an array using a for of loop like this. Okay, and do jQuery stuff inside that loop. And we can give an element a event by using this on function off a jQuery thing. Okay, and again, jQuery, we always know it's jQuery when we see that $sign in front of everything. So, yeah. Hopefully this gave you a little bit more power in what you can be doing with jQuery. Again, you can mix and match all these ideas to create really cool, complicated stuff. Do take time to go read the jQuery documentation to learn about so many other cool things you can make. The documentation is actually very readable, very well laid out, so that way you know the power you have when using jQuery. My name is Alex Merced from alexmercedcoder.com. Have a great day and enjoy.